Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends, from wherever you are joining us today. Welcome to today's webinar, which is not exactly going to be in the form of a webinar today. We are doing more of a discussion, and you'll see why. So we will be talking about upcoming events the Voice of Men has planned, the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day, and the World Day of the Boy Child. So my name is Tola Deoshu, and I'm your host. I'm also an assistant secretary at Voice of Men 360, and I am a registered social worker. It is my great pleasure to host today's regular weekly webinar. And thank you, Voice of Men 360 and the team for giving me this opportunity. So we normally hold these weekly webinars to create awareness on topics such as last week we talked about child sexual abuse. We've talked about raising children. We've talked about human trafficking. So today we're focusing on the two events that I mentioned that we have upcoming and that are national and international celebrations of the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day and the World Day of the Boy Child. So before I introduce our special guest today, I just want to give you a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360. So Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization founded in 2020 and is based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 is an organization that was born out of seeing the tremendous needs of boys and men and in our society. So it decided to step up and to decide to address some of the areas that they're struggling in. So we are part of International Men's Day, which is a global organization. And International Men's Day is based on 6 pillars, which has to do with the overall well-being of boys and men. It's been around for 21 years and celebrated in nearly 90 countries. These countries join together on a regular basis to do various activities. So as mentioned earlier, we are talking about the upcoming events today that Voice of Men 360 has planned for National Child and Youth Mental Health Day and the World Day of the Boy Child. So my special guest today is none other than Mathusha Kalamenan, who is the Youth Wing Coordinator for the Voice of Men 360. She's also going to be hosting the panel discussion on the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. So let me just tell you a little bit more about who Mathusha is. Mathusha has an undergrad degree in psychology, life sciences at the University of Toronto. She is someone who is deeply passionate about her mother tongue, Themese. I guess I'll get her to tell me more how to say that language. And she self-taught herself how to speak, read, and write it. She's also been singing since the age of 3, and she self-taught herself as well how to do that. And she's been partaking in formal Indian classical South Indian Carnatic music for the past 6 years. She's currently pursuing Carnatic vocal and Saraswati Vinay. She teaches music through her music school, Kalaviam Voice Academy. Her goal is to bring out cinematic and performance-based talents hidden among people from her community. So let us welcome Mathusha today. Welcome. Sorry. I butchered some of those names, and I'm sorry, even including your mother tongue. Can you just maybe kind of revisit some of the things I just shared? Because I want people to understand what I was trying to say, because I really butchered it. So your mother tongue is called what, please?
Yes, so my mother tongue is actually Tamil, so it's the Tamil language.
Okay.
Yes, so that's no worries. First of all, before I go on, I want to thank you, Tolu, for the great warm welcome and the introduction. That was really, really well done. And thanks for giving the information on Voice of Men 360. And of course, I'm happy to be here today to share some of my insights on this as well, too, and some of the initiatives that we're working on. But yes, coming back to the language thing. So yes, my mother tongue language is actually Tamil. So that's the language that I kind of, I self-taught myself throughout to read, write, and speak, because in my household we actually speak English between me and my parents. So that's one thing. And then in music wise, I am, yes, like you said, that was correct. So I'm studying Carnatic music. So I'm actually learning vocal, which is singing, as well as the Saraswati Veena, which is an instrument that can be commonly resembled with the sitar. So for those of you who don't know what instrument it is, it looks very much like a sitar. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people know what a sitar looks like. It's very long and large. So that's how it would be. And in terms of that, yes, definitely. I'm so happy to be here. Like I said, so my initiative here is that I want to, of course, in my professional side, I always try to focus on bringing out, the skills and talents and self-confidence of individuals. And I do that through music. I use that as an avenue to, bring out equality and unity between people. But aside from that, today, definitely for the sake of this initiative, I'm here to help focus on where we can make changes, where we can bring to light some of the issues that often get overlooked, and how we can, recognize that going forward for these two really important events coming up.
Thank you so much for
Anyways.
clarifying more about who you are and what you do and sharing your passions with us and what you're looking forward to doing with the upcoming events we have with Voice of Men 360. So you kind of talked a little bit about your childhood. You told me that you spoke English mostly at home, but you did teach yourself how to speak Tamil. Can you tell me more about what other parts of your childhood did you have a brother or brothers? Has led you to volunteer with Voice of Men 360 to be on the board?
Yes, thank you, Tolu. So that's a great question, actually. So the biggest part for me is actually that I like to share is that I'm an only child. So I grew up without the influence of having siblings by my side, and I also lived like on my own with my family. So which means that we didn't actually have accompanying relatives. I've heard of other people who have grown up with their aunt living at home, or maybe they had grandparents with them. So I didn't really have that. So throughout my life, it was just basically my little three bubble. So it was always mom, dad, me. So growing up like that, definitely it has given me a lot of different insights, perspectives, and influences in both good and bad ways, I can definitely say. So before I share about why I'm here and why I want to be a part of Voice of Men, I just want to give an insight on how my experiences were growing up. So some of the let's start with the good stuff. I don't want to make it sound like it's all the bad thing or a negative thing to be an only child, but some of the good things was that I really got close contact, close focus with my parents, because my parents often dedicated all of their effort and their initiatives and all of their affection, I guess, towards me. And I know that can be problematic, and it's not true exactly, but there's some people that say when parents have multiple children that they often pick favorites, or they don't treat all their children equally, or some kids feel that way. I've heard of children who say mom always does everything for my brother but not for me. So like that. So I guess I didn't really have to go through a lot of that side of issues. I always felt like I mattered to my parents, so that was something that was really really happy and I was grateful for. Another thing was growing up, education wise, everything, I had that support system in my home. And even despite that, I did have issues where I did struggle too with mental health things and stuff like that. But aside from that, what I really want to come to say here is that I was grateful for that support structure. And that's what's going to lead me into my next conversation as well when it comes to Voice of Men 360, because for us, it's really, really important that we want to create that sense of unity, that sense of community, and we want to create the support system for maybe those who feel like they lack or they're falling through. So that's something that's really important. Now, on the negative side, where I wanted to say, as growing up as an only child, is I sometimes felt like I lacked an external support system. So aside from your parents, obviously, children and youth in families, they often feel supported when they have more extended family, or maybe siblings, a sibling that they can share things with, or maybe someone that they can compare their perspectives with, and even having a good friend circle. So that was something that I really struggled with. So those are some things that have really been pivotal to my journey and shaped me into who I am today. So coming down to Voice of Men 360 and why I really want to be a part of this initiative and why I'm here to help as much as I can is, like I said, to establish that support system. So I think it's really, really important that everyone, whether it's a boy, a youth, or it's a female, or it's even adults, for anyone, every single person needs a support system, whether that's a child all the way down to being in your senior ages, past the age of 60, 70 years old, because that support system is what creates, your ability to reflect on yourself, for you to be able to, fix anything that you're having issues with along with your life. And through Voice of Men 360, we have so many great initiatives like what we're doing right now. There's like the weekly conversations. There's the open up programs where we actually bring in people to speak about their life journey and share about some of their struggles and everything. So I really, really like these initiatives because I feel like this is one way where we're actually taking active steps weekly, daily, monthly, as much as we can to actually bring out perspectives and help people have a platform. So this is one of my reasons.
Thank you so much for painting it that way because I totally agree, right? You're saying that you didn't feel like you had other support systems outside of your parent growing up. And this is what Voice of Men 360 is about. We are here, we're letting people know that, hey, these topics that, these issues that you may have struggled with, you're not alone. There's a lot of other people that struggle with it. And this is what pointing them to the directions of resources or just letting them know that, hey, other people have struggled with it. This is what they've done. This is how you can overcome these things. So, and it's great that you have found your reason for why you want to be involved with Voice of Men 360 and all the initiatives that we do have going on here. So thank you for sharing your story with me and the reasons for why you've joined us here at Voice of Men 360. So I know that you're going to be hosting the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. Can you tell me more about what you guys have planned and what you're hoping to accomplish with this?
Yeah, sure. So most definitely. So for National Child and Youth Mental Health Day, our goal here is obviously to create the discussional platform to bring light to the issues that children and youth are facing in their mental health. And the thing that makes this really unique, this day unique, is that we're not just localizing this just to like Canada. That's why it's called National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. So I think it's such an important thing, and it's actually unique to focus on something in a national, in a global perspective, because it's so easy for every community or for any of us. I mean, naturally, whenever we think of any concern or a matter, we always tend to localize it. So I think localizing is a very big problem in any community, because when we actually talk about any issues and we're trying to address them, we're often only exposed to our own community, or we're only exposed to as much knowledge as we have around us. So we often forget about how other areas are affected by this same concept. So I think that's where our foundation is for this day. So when I'm going to be speaking about that on that day, we're going to be focusing on how this is affecting people globally, worldwide, and especially during one of the most terrible times that we're in right now, which is, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's affecting populations immensely everywhere. And of course, that's going to range in terms of economy, different sizes of population, different communities, villages, and how much access they really have to resources. So of course, me being in Canada right now, of course, I would say I feel privileged, of course, because I feel like there's a lot of resources available for children, youth, and of course, adults for accessing mental health resources, being able to seek help, and like we said in the beginning, creating this support network. But how about if we compare, people who are, stuck in maybe less developed countries, or people who are in actually, economically deprived villages, communities. So those people who have language barriers and less access to resources, how can we help them? What are the things that we can do for them, or how can they seek out for resources? And that's another concern, obviously, that I really want to target from this, and as well as going forth in events, is how we can actually reach out to those communities. Because surely, for example, if we're doing this as an online program, I wouldn't be 100% sure if such communities would be able to access like the information that we're discussing, or even for that matter, maybe there might be language barriers, etc. So I think that's one of the main areas that we want to focus on and continue to focus on. So another thing that I want to touch on is I don't want it to end with May 7th. So May 7th is a day, yes, that I'm going to come forth and speak about it, but this has to be an initiative that we're going to keep taking steps, and I want to be a part of as well too, that we keep proactively making steps to reach out to all the areas that are untouched on the map. I like to say untouched on the map, because the ones that are untouched on the map are probably the ones that are having the most difficulties, and they don't know how to help, and we don't know how to help them best. So that's
Yeah.
one. And another thing that I would like to just give a background of information about National Child and Youth Mental Health Day, it was founded in 2007, and from Family Smart Resources, there's actually a website all dedicated towards this that provides information. And where we're centered on this is to actually promote a carefree, judgment-free environment for youth and children to share their perspectives, to share anything that they have, and to create that same, like I said, again, it comes back all down to that support system. When we have that support system and that sense of community, this is where people don't end up getting left out. We don't have people dispersed everywhere, but we have them together with a unison, and we're able to focus on those issues together. And they're actually doing some great initiatives where they're focusing on elementary schools, middle schools, secondary schools. So it's like all the range of children in all the ages. So this is the population that we need to target, and they focus on, how we can address this through social media. And I certainly think that this day is really, really important because children and youth are the foundation of our society. That's all I can say, because going forward in future, of course, I mean, yes, we have our middle-aged population, we have the elderly population, but the children are the future. So if we set this foundation clear and we set them in the best mindset going forward, they're going to be able to help all the people that are come after them, and they're going to help the people that are already there and struggling. So this is why this day is really important.
Yes, thank you. And I love what you said there. It's about making sure we can figure ways to provide resources for untouched areas on the map where people don't have the resources to mental health resources. And then also, you're right, this pandemic has definitely had an effect on young people and the isolation. A lot of them are turning to online gaming, a lot more online stuff. They're not as social as they used to be. They're struggling. And then with with the schools, their schools are on, the schools are off, and all these things. It's just it's been a challenge. So I think there's no better time than now to focus on the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. And it looks like you're going to have a panel discussion. You're going to have people from. I'm looking here at the poster for it. So Trinidad and Tobago, India, Canada. I'm unsure where this young lady's come from. Maybe the Philippines, as well as and yeah. So can you tell me more about? Do you know more about the people that are going to be on the panels? Where they're coming from, what their stories might be, what their struggles have been?
Yes, so right now I don't have all the information, so I definitely don't want to give incorrect information about all the members, but I do know that every person who is participating is from different areas, very drastically different areas. So coming from totally different walks of life, I feel like that's going to be one of the most crucial and unique parts of this panel discussion, because like I said, it's important that we're not localizing it. So had we have chosen all members who are from Canada, it would be very difficult, I would say, for us to be able to relate it to how this is affecting other people on other sides of the world. So from these people who are all coming from different walks of life, surely they're going to be able to share about how their lifestyles have been, how they have seen other societies around them, how community members are affected. And perhaps this is where we get the combined discussion, because they're going to be able to offer perspectives to us, we can offer perspectives to them, and this is how we actually create a collaboration and an active initiative of change, because change doesn't happen unless we share. It's definitely a teamwork. So I'm not capable of changing everything together, neither is anyone else. So we all have to work together to change it. And that's what I really love about this panel discussion. I'm very, very excited to meet every single member and hear about their stories. And I'm sure they will hear about mine too. And when we're able to share some collaborative suggestions and everything, I'm pretty sure there's some way that we're each going to walk out and be able to help our communities in our respective ways.
That's fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to watching this and taking part in it. So, I do believe we also have another international recognition day coming up, the World Day of the Boy Child. What do you know about this World Day of the Boy Child? I know we're having, I believe it's a special forum we're having, and the host is going to be Oliver Levy, who was actually on a guest on the webinar before with me talking about parenting. So what do you know about the World Day of the Boy Child, and what are you looking forward to learning about it and seeing what we're going to be doing here at Voice Women 360?
Yes, perfect. So definitely. So the World Day of the Boy Child. This specific day is actually it annually occurs. For those who don't know, it's on May 16th, the day that's dedicated towards it. But of course, I like to never call anything just a day. We always like to say that an initiative continues. It lives on. It lives on 365 days right throughout the year. It's just about how we approach it and how we keep this in our hearts. So it's like we always say in every Voice of Men 360 episode, we always make sure to say that, just don't listen to it today. Try to keep it in your mind, try to keep it in the back of your mind, and always try to bring forth somewhat something of it every day in your daily actions and lives. And that's how we make change. So the reason why we have the World Day of the Boy Child, I'll explain in brief here, is to celebrate what the boy is able to afford, like, to contribute, actually, sorry, my pardon, to contribute towards our society. So we want to celebrate, all of their skills, their abilities, their personalities, like everything we're trying to celebrate about the boy. So the boy growing into a youth, into an adolescent, into an adult, into a man someday. So when they have this transition process, we're trying to celebrate every single struggle, all of their accomplishments. We're trying to focus on every single aspect of their lives. And then we try to create it like we're trying to look at this here in the World Day of the Boy Child. We're looking at it in a very like a bubble perspective, like of different environments. So we want to look at it from starting from the home. So start from how the boy is affected at home, how they have their support system, their family, their siblings, their close friends, family friends. And then we go out towards maybe their school environment, maybe then slowly into their work environment, then into their school, and then into their education, marriage, everything. So these are all different environments that affect the boy community so much. And some of the facts that I was able to see here when I was looking up, the significance of the World of the Boy Child, it was that 50% of the boys worldwide, so this is worldwide on a global perspective, actually tend to fail below the proficiency standard, so the literacy proficiency standard. So which is surprising because, see, this is another thing. When we see in media tends to always convey that the females, so like all the girls are the ones who don't usually have too much access to education, or they're the ones who often have to drop out of school, etc. So we don't often focus on how boys are affected by that. So it was actually surprising even for me, like when I looked at it and I was like, wow, I would have never expected that, because I would think that all the females are the ones that fall below the educational standard. So that was one. Another thing was, being more susceptible to mental health issues, being victims of violence, and they're more likely to end up in reformatory institutes, juvenile detention centers, and being suppressed from birth, like spiritually, mentally, because they're not able to express their feelings because of, the masculine roles and gender roles. So these are all things that we aim to bring to light on this day. And we try to break all those barriers. We want to try and create just the equal standards where a male is no different from a female. So they're able to share all these perspectives, and we're still able to also help them based like tailoring it to their needs. So let's say, for example, if a boy was having difficulties with choosing their educational path, maybe they wanted to choose an educational path that is seemingly more feminine based on society, and that has created a social pressure in their household where maybe their family is not as accepting of it, and maybe they're forced into another area where they're maybe not preferring of. So these are some things that can obviously create like mental pressures. It can create stress. It can create a lack of acceptance. So this is where that sense of community is broken again, because they feel like they're singled out and they don't feel like they're able to unite. So these are some things that we can work to address on this day.
No, and I'm looking forward to that. I believe the theme is actually guiding the boy child positively impacting the world. So this is exactly in lines with what you were just describing, and I'm looking forward to what Voice of Men has to contribute to that day. So is there anything else you want to share with us or you want to talk about today before we wrap up our webinar, which is in a different format today than normal?
Yeah, so not really much that I want to say. I don't want to, just keep running over the same things that I said, but I definitely want to say, like I always, my biggest point is to take something away from everything that you're listening. So to whoever that is listening to this, always don't leave it just with listening to what we spoke about today and just forgetting it with that. So everything should never be recognized as a day. It's always, like I said, 365. We're always working towards a change. And change will not be instant. So we have to keep working towards that. And because there are so many in the population that are, affected by different things, and especially like we're focusing on, of course, boys, men, males in general. So that's really important for us to keep finding ways of how we can reach out to these populations. So that would be my takeaway from this.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. And this is why Voice of Men 360 is here. We are here. We do things on the weekend. We do have shows and programs on the weekdays. And we have a Facebook page that people can be part of. And so the discussion is an ongoing thing. We are not stopping. We want people to know that we are here. We are addressing these issues and that we are present. And you are more than welcome to ask us for help. And we can point you into the right direction if we don't have those resources ourselves. So thank you for pointing that out, that these are issues that don't stop on just that one day. It's something that we need to continue to address and continue to work on and continue to make better. Thank you so much, Mathusha, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just a few things before we close today. So like I mentioned, we do have 4 live shows that we do weekly. We have Open Up, which is a live talk show that takes place every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have a weekly webinar, which is what we did today. It's just in a bit of a different format. And that's on Saturdays from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Actually, next week, we're going to be talking about male sexual abuse again. We do have a special guest who is a registered psychologist, Dr. Kelly Palfi. So please tune in next week, because I think this is a topic that is really important that we address, and that people that have been victims of sexual abuse as children can come forward and talk about it and acknowledge that this has happened to them and start to get the healing. So please tune in next week for that. We will also we also have Vili, which means I in English, and it's sharing your personal life journey. So it's pretty much like Open Up, and it's in Tamil. So it's live every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for people who live outside of Canada. And we also have a panel discussion that takes place once a month in English and Tamil. And I do believe, as you're aware, we do have the National Child and Youth Mental Health Day panel discussion, which is coming up on Friday, May 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have various youth from around the world, and with our Voice of Men 360 board member that you just met, Mathusha, as the host. We will also be hosting a special forum to acknowledge the World Day of the Boy Child. The theme will be Guiding the Boy Child, Positively Impacting the World, and it'll be hosted by Oliver Levy. So this will be taking place on Sunday, May 16th. We are busy. We have a lot going on. That same Sunday, May 16th, we also have our new revamped monthly men's group meeting. It's a closed group meeting for men only, and it's peer-led by a trained peer facilitator. So the new format started last month in April, and it went really well. We had a good turnout. People felt comfortable. They felt safe. They were able to talk about what issues that they're struggling with. And so we have the next one coming up on May 16th as well. So that's May 16th, 2021. Please register on our Facebook page. So we are always looking for new members and volunteers to join us here at Voice of Men 360. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. So if you want to be a guest on any of our shows, or you're willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with you. Our phone number is as below, 437-889-8329. Our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. And you can find us on all social media platforms. So we have a Facebook page, like I mentioned earlier. So please join our group, and so you can see our daily activities. And please invite your friends as well. We also have Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and we are also on TikTok. So please take your time to check out our channels and subscribe to Voice of Men 360 on YouTube. And we thank you for your time today. We thank you for all your support, and we look forward to seeing you in our future events. And we will see you next time here on our weekly webinar.